her. Like she had to go over there where her reputation didn't so much precede her in order to get a check. So my friends, we need to be a little bit more discerning in our invitations. It was just more inanity, saying absolutely nothing about anything with a huge windup to every single quote unquote point she was about to make. She makes you work so hard. You have to sift through 500 words to get to the 4 that actually do have meaning, but then you realize that those 2 are entirely empty.
All right, this one's hot off the press. And trust me, you're going to love every second of it. Megyn Kelly just obliterated KLA Harris. And it was equal parts hilarious and brutal. Harris jetted off to Australia to give one of her signature word salad speeches. And let's just say she didn't disappoint. I got the full breakdown right here, so smash that subscribe button and let's dive into the madness.
We're lucky, aren't we, to just get a little bit of this gold dust, that the realtors of Australia are what bring her out of hiding.
Like, for what lessons exactly? First of all, she's never been a salesperson. Don't you have to know sales and very well to be a realtor? Like, that's one of their greatest skills. You'd think they'd want somebody who is an excellent salesperson. She's never been in the public sector doing any sort of sales work whatsoever, other than her fake little stint at McDonald's. But let's face it, those burgers sell themselves. So what could be gleaned from her? First of all, you got to be a little concerned. Like, it'd be one thing if she were in hot demand over here and like she just made time for the Aussies because that's out of the goodness of her heart. Nobody wants her. Like, she had to go over there where her reputation didn't so much precede her in order to get a check.
Honestly, I had the exact same reaction as Megyn Kelly when I found out Kamala Harris was invited to speak at a real estate conference of all places. I mean, seriously, what were the organizers thinking? How you hand a mic to someone with zero background in real estate and expect anything remotely insightful? What was she going to talk about evicting Common? Since maybe Megyn's onto something at this point, it's hard to tell if Harris was honored with the invitation or she lobbied her way into a paid gig. Either way, it's just another bizarre chapter in the Harris highlight reel.
And then the bits that I saw, because earlier today, at least, it wasn't put out on video, so we were just getting little sneak peeks at it from what my friends over there, got and put online. It was just more inanity, saying absolutely nothing about anything with a huge windup to every single quote unquote point she was about to make. She makes you work so hard. You have to sift through 500 words to get to the 4 that actually do have meaning, but then you realize that those 2 are entirely empty.
I'll play KLA Harris's clip in just a second, but first let me say this: Megyn Kelly was absolutely right. I watched just 5 minutes of that interview and walked away with a full-blown headache, not from the content. Because let's be honest, there wasn't any, but from trying to decode whatever it was she thought she was saying. The worst part is how she leans and puts on that serious, almost presidential face, as if she's about to drop some deep, profound insight, only to hit us with the most confusing, circular, cringe-inducing word salad imaginable. It's like watching a TED Talk delivered by a magic 8-ball. You think I'm exaggerating? Listen to this.
If you are in an interaction where you don't have that level of awareness, they will be aware of that. I mean, this is the thing that I've also known about life, and I'm sure everyone here understands. The vast majority of human beings are very intelligent.
You know what? Let me spare you the agony. I won't bore you with the rest of her speech, how the entire hour-long performance, only about a minute and 2 seconds, were remotely coherent, the rest pure gibberish dressed up as inspiration. And get this, people actually paid $1,000 to sit through that $000 to hear KLA Harris do what she does best, say a lot without saying anything. I mean, did these folks not know what they were signing up for? This isn't new. It's like buying a ticket to a mime show and expecting Shakespeare. Of course, Megyn didn't spare Kamala. Her next diatribe was scorching hot.
Basically just giving a version of the same speech wherever she goes, which of course is the laziest possible thing, and they get paid a huge chunk of change. Can I read from one of the newspaper accounts of what she said? Quote, she said, real estate agents could be considered, quote, civic leaders for their role in connecting buyers with suitable homes. The point... She just turns up anywhere and insert industry or who I'm talking to and tell them that they're civic leaders. They're flogging apartments, around Australia and beachside on the Gold Coast. Civic leaders, please.
Yes, I know I promised I wasn't going to subject you to any more cringy Kelly Harris moments, but I couldn't help myself. This next clip is just too much to ignore. At one point, she says something about civic leaders in real estate helping connect buyers. And honestly, what does that even mean? Maybe she meant neighborhood activists should moonlight as real estate agents, or perhaps she thinks city council members should start hosting open houses on weekends. Who knows at this point? Decoding Kamala's speeches feels like reading horoscopes written by ChatGPT on a caffeine bender. What's truly baffling is how she delivers these lines with such conviction, as if she's unearthing some groundbreaking policy, when in reality, it's just another word salad tossed in addressing confusion.
They don't even see themselves like that. Like, they know a lot about houses and what would make somebody happy and what's a good deal and what's not. But civic leaders, what is that? That's like your preacher, probably your mayor, I don't know, some activist in town who's taken up an issue that's important to the town, like no windmills offshore. I don't know, but it's probably not the realtor. And that's just, of course, her empty pablum, because CAA took her on as a client, this big agency that I used to be with too. And I'm sorry to tell you, but you guys were the only takers. So someone was really excited until they found out, like, literally no one else wanted her. I shudder to think what the check looked like. They cannot get her any gigs over here. No one wants to hear.
KLA Harris rarely gets invited to speaking gigs around these parts. And honestly, it's no mystery why we know exactly what we be getting. And trust me, no one's lining up to hear another hour-long ramble packed with buzzwords and zero substance or speeches. I like fast food for the brain, overly processed, lacking in nutrition, and somehow still unsatisfying now. Maybe some lawyers out there will be more than happy to host her for a speaking engagement. After all, she does have a legal background, and they might enjoy deciphering her monologues like courtroom evidence. But for the rest of us, we prefer speakers who inspire, inform, or at the very least make sense. And unfortunately, Kamala hasn't checked any of those boxes in a long time.
Not only could she not sell real estate the way the people listening to the show likely can, she couldn't sell herself. So why would you think she would have something of value to say to you about sales, which is the business of real estate? Like, she didn't win the presidency. She didn't win the nomination ever. She couldn't. She failed miserably when she actually did run. She couldn't sell herself as an inspirational woman, nor as a woman from Puerto Rico or Jamaica or where else were her accents from. She couldn't sell herself as any of those things. All she really is an out-of-work lawyer. So maybe you should ask her about contract law. She might be able to say something valuable on that front. Otherwise, it was a waste of everyone's time.
Honestly, I don't think KLA Harris is cut out for a political career, or public speaking for that matter. The gaffes keep piling up faster than anyone can keep track. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion, except there's no crash, just endless confusion and awkward moments that leave everyone wondering what just happened. Public speaking requires clarity, confidence, and connection with her audience, all things she seems to struggle with consistently. Maybe it's time for her to consider stepping back, retiring quietly from the political spotlight and focusing on something she actually knows will, like her law career. There's no shame in walking away gracefully and dedicating herself to something less public, but more impactful. Not every path leads to the White House or center stage, and sometimes the smartest move is knowing when to exit. For Kamala, a return to legal practice might just be the best bet for her reputation and for all of us tired of the endless word salad.
That she didn't try an Australian accent, because, as you say, during a campaign, that she was, if she was in the South, she tried to sound a little Southern. And what was it that your daughter, doesn't your daughter have a little piece of advice as to how you can try to sound
how you can sound Australian? You say, razor blades.
Razor blades.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kamala Harris.
Blades.
Have you got any razor blades? See, that would have worked. It would have worked. Maybe I was trying to think.
What I'm actually saying is rise up lights. I'm in American English, I'm saying rise up lights, but it translates into Australian English into razor blades. but I sound like a local, don't I?
Absolutely, and you are welcome on any of our conferences anywhere, and they'll pay you better than she. All right.
Oh my God, I know, I should be offended that I wasn't invited first. I'm much bigger in Australia than Kamala Harris is. Where's my invitation, realtors?
Kamala Harris is so phony, it's hard to tell where the real version ends, or there even is one. If someone ever made a fake Kamala clone, good luck figuring out which the woman can switch up accents faster than a Broadway actress doing a one-woman show. Southern twang check urban slang. Sure, folksy Midwest charm. Why not she'll morph into whatever she thinks will make her relatable in the moment? It's less about authenticity and more about performance, like she's always acting, always trying to fit in, never just being. And the irony, the more she tries to resonate, the more disconnected she sounds. Voters see through it. People aren't looking for a chameleon. They're looking for someone real, someone who doesn't need to reinvent themselves every time they step up to a podium. And with Kamala, what you see isn't what you get, it's what she thinks you want at this point. Her speeches feel more like auditions. And unfortunately, the audience is no longer applauding, they're cringing. In fact, Bill Maher warned us a few times about Kamala Harris, but we failed to listen.
I could see is replacing the vice president, because she's not very popular anywhere, and it didn't seem to work out. And I don't know, that's been done before on a ticket. I just think she's a bad politician.
If only the DNC had listened to Bill Maher and sidelined Kamala Harris in favor of a more formidable, broadly appealing presidential candidate, they might have avoided the crushing defeat they suffered in last year's elections. Maher warned them, many others did too. But the party was too busy checking boxes and chasing identity politics to hear the alarm bells. Let's face it, Kamala Harris has never enjoyed widespread popularity. Her approval ratings were abysmal long before she was elevated to the national stage. Her speeches come off as scripted, her policies as vague, and her public persona often feels disconnected from everyday Americans. Yet despite all that, the DNC kept pushing her forward. As if electability didn't matter, this wasn't just a misstep. It was political malpractice. When the stakes were sky high, the party bet on symbolism over substance, and voters saw right through Harris shouldn't be anywhere near the presidential ticket in 2028. The Democrats need to wake up and realize that performative politics won't win elections if they keep ignoring voices like Maher's and the clear will of the electorate. They're not just risking another loss, they're handing the next election to their opponents on a silver platter.
With the Democratic Party, they're so boxed in by identity politics that you cannot conceive of a Democratic ticket that doesn't have a woman, person of color on it, and pretty soon you're going to line up behind that gay, Latino, and you're going to have, a deaf escort.
Absolutely, identity politics may very well be the undoing of the Democratic Party. It's become a crutch, a way to signal virtue rather than deliver results. If not for identity politics, Kamala Harris wouldn't have come anywhere near the vice presidency, let alone be floated as a serious contender for presidency. Her selection wasn't based on merit, broad appeal, or compelling policy vision. It was about optics. Let's be honest, the DNC has developed a troubling habit of pandering to narrow interest groups at the expense of the broader electorate instead of uniting voters around common goals, such as economic growth, national security, or education. They're too often focused on appeasing small factions with loud voices. And it's costing them dearly. This kind of tokenism doesn't inspire confidence. It breeds resentment and division. It sends a clear message that checking demographic boxes matters more than leadership or competence. Until the Democratic Party breaks free from this performative politics and starts prioritizing candidates who can actually lead, they'll continue to alienate middle America and keep losing elections they could have won. Kamala Harris has become the political equivalent of a scripted performance, unconvincing, inconsistent, and painfully out of touch. Her constant gaffe, shifting accents, and hollow speeches have made it clear she's better suited for a quiet return to private life than the national stage. Voters crave authenticity, not rehearsed relatability. And with every awkward appearance, she reminds us why fewer people are buying what she's trying so hard to sell. And this brings us to the end of today's video. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.